Good evening, you're watching Plain Speak with me, Poonam Burde. The second phase of the budget session began today, and right from the get-go there were fireworks. During question hour, Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan hit out at the DMK-led Tamil Nadu government, accusing them of taking a U-turn in the national education policy. He called the DMK stance uncivilized and undemocratic. That lit the fire immediately, with several DMK MPs walking to the well of the House, raising slogans, demanding what they said was justice, and then eventually walking out. But that did not stop the Education Minister from setting the record straight. DMK then took their protests outside the August House. From calling the Education Minister a liar to moving a privilege motion against him now, the Dravidian party did all they could to keep the pot boiling. The DMK-led Tamil Nadu government has for long insisted that the three-language policy in the national education policy is a backdoor attempt to impose Hindi on the state. But the question really is that true? And are students being held to ransom? Are they losing out because of this politics between the state and the centre? Before we get into that, let's get you some context. Now, after back-to-back attacks by the DMK government, Union Education Minister, like I said today, gave it back, and it was a no-holds-barred attack that happened on the floor of the lower house. M.K. Stalin, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, was quick to hit back with a retort, and here's how it all transpired. Reiterating that the Stalin government took a U-turn on the national education policy, the Education Minister accused the government of politicizing the whole issue. On the back foot, but still keeping the aggressive stance, M.K. Stalin said that Pradhan thinks of himself as an arrogant king. Dharmendra Pradhan had said that the future of students is being jeopardized because of DMK's politics. To which M.K. Stalin replied that the Education Minister needs to be disciplined for this arrogance. Now upping the ante, the Education Minister called DMK's stance on the matter uncivilized and undemocratic. But Stalin called this an insult to the cause of the people of Tamil Nadu and not to the DMK or to him personally. Dharmendra Pradhan even went on to accuse the DMK of only building language barriers. To which the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister replied that no one can force them to implement the contentious three-language formula as part of the national education policy. But is the opposition to this more political than anything else? Dravidian parties claim that it imposes Hindi on students, and that's something that they won't stand for. But the national education policy does not mandate Hindi at all. As part of the three-language policy, it only mandates 2 native languages or Indian languages and 1 English. The DMK government says that NEP infringes on the state's autonomy on education, which is a matter in the concurrent list, and the state should have the right to decide what languages can be studied, which is why they do not want to implement the three-language formula. But the fact is that the national education policy allows states to customize this implementation based on their unique needs. So the state is not losing out. This three-language policy is also seen as a burden on school kids by the DMK, which is why they want to stick to the two-language policy that currently is in place. The centre, though, maintains that this policy and its restructuring allows for more flexibility both for the state, for the teachers and for the students involved as well. Now, in 2021, the then BJP government in Karnataka had implemented the national education policy. While the Congress mulls to replace it, so far there has been not any real action over this. And this is something that was pointed out by the Education Minister today, that why is there only one state in the south that seems to have an opposition to the national education policy? The KCR government in Telangana had implemented NEP in 2020 when it came into effect. It has remained constant in the state of Andhra Pradesh as well, even though we've seen a change of government from an opposition leader in the YSRCP government, which is Jagan Mohan Reddy, to now a BJP ally, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu. The left government in Kerala has developed a new curriculum in lieu of the national education policy. So it only leaves Tamil Nadu in the southern states that has outrightly rejected the implementation of the national education policy. It remains headstrong as far as the two-language formula goes. And that's something that they're now fighting for. This comes in the wake of over the last 2 weeks that the Chief Minister has been talking about this entire Hindi imposition and the language storm that has now spilled over into the Parliament as well. But who exactly is blackmailing for their politics? That's what we ask on Plain Speak tonight.
The honourable member who raised the question, she also came to see me with Honourable Education Minister of Tamil Nadu. They agreed, they went back, they have a U-turn. It is their problem.
Tamil Nadu never accepted the new education policy because we are against the three-language policy for our students. We feel that Tamil Nadu has been doing very well, extremely well. We have implemented the breakfast scheme, the no meal scheme. We ensure that the children are studying. And if you consider throughout the Indian level, the level of Tamil Nadu students going to higher education is the highest.
We will not accept not only the three-language formula, the other things also are there. So I think every state need not go behind the union government, whatever the decision they take and implement, we run behind them, and getting money means we are not going with begging bowls.
Once they say third language, the third language inevitably will be Hindi. They will say that Tamil Nadu does not have adequate Hindi teachers. So since we are funding it, we will send Hindi teachers from the north of India, and these Hindi teachers will come and distort our culture.
किसी भी मंदिर में चले जाइए, तमिल के मंदिर में चले जाइए, तेलुगु के मंदिर में चले जाइए, कन्नड़ के मंदिर में चले जाइए, सभी जगह संस्कृत में ही पूजा होता है। चुनाव हारने के डर से ये न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी का विरोध कर रहे हैं।
Let's open this up to our guests who join us on Plain Speak. Kalyan Raman, BJP leader from Tamil Nadu, is with me here in the studio. Lakshmi Ramachandran, spokesperson of the Congress, is with us. Pularao, political analyst, and Sagar Srivastav, chairman and founder of EduDag, which is a direct admission global, joins us here as well. Let me first ask Mr. Pularao. This opposition to the national education policy has been a long-standing one as far as the DMK and the Tamil Nadu government is concerned. We're now seeing it spill over into the parliament as well. But why is it that the DMK is calling the education minister a liar when the national education policy does not mandate Hindi at all as a third language?
Yes, and arrogant also. They called him arrogant because he has used unparliamentary language today. You know, Poonam, there are a list of phrases in parliament compiled, unparliamentary words. He used it. He says you're uncivilized. That is, a minister should be more reserved. A minister should be more subdued. Minister should be persuasive. The DMK or XMK or anybody can't help it if the central minister who wields enormous power wants a one-way traffic. It doesn't work like that. I'm so sorry that so far, to my knowledge, in the last 20 years, 30 years, no minister in the government of India has said take it or leave it. And you're doing that, you're doing that. Is it a court? Are you quoting precedents that you get decisions you want? You have to persuade them. I am not here to say he is right, he is wrong. He may be right, but you have to persuade them. Where are your persuasive skills? Instead of that, he attacks them.
So what exactly is the objection then, Mr. Pularao? The way in which the education minister has been speaking, or that the national education policy is a problem?
Very simple. Their objection is, we want a two-language formula, and that is their objection. You find it wrong? Should you not try to find a middle ground? Should you not try and, instead of saying you're wrong? And my friend, Mr. Kalyan Raman, I only want to ask him with great politeness and respect, why should the Tamil Nadu BJP support anything which is against your interests or some parties? The Northeast BJP parties don't support various diet rules, other rules, religious rules, all that. You should say the central minister should persuade them if his ground is strong. He can't hector and say, you accept it, this is bad, 2 plus 2 is 4. We all know those arguments. So I believe he has already spoiled his case by not having the gravitas and the high command of a central minister. When he calls others' names, they'll call him back. You can't use the word uncivilized.
Sure, and I mean, if we have an eye for an eye, the whole world's going to go blind. So that's really not the approach we'd want. But Mr. Kalyan Raman, I also want to ask you this. As far as the DMK is concerned, they have been insisting, and their opposition goes long back, not just to 2020 when the NEP came into being. But the fact is that the NEP does not mandate Hindi anywhere. There used to be an earlier formula which had said Hindi should be the third language, but that was done away with. Why do you think then we see this opposition time and again every few weeks, every few months?
Well, if you look at the way the issue is being raised, it is in a situation where the incumbent government, that is the DMK government, is at the receiving end on multiple facts, including law and order situation and the failure of governance, the amount of debts the Tamil Nadu government has accumulated, for Tamil Nadu, etc. So, in order to cover up their failures, they are racking up issues like number one, the NEP, number two, the delimitation, and there are small trivial things also. Here we have to go and look at the two basic policies of national education policies 1968 and 1986, both by the Congress. In both these cases, it was insisted that the Hindi shall be the third language. On the contrary, the NEP 2020 does not say that. Instead, it says there shall be a third language. It can be seen as in the larger interest of the nation. So, why DMK is insisting here that we will not look at it with the national interest? That is the question. DMK has always been traditionally an anti-national party boasted by the British government. If anybody has to go through the historical facts of the case, it's just that everybody is ignoring this fact and trying to anti-national is what is the forte of DMK. The Congress which had introduced the policy
approach that has been taken by the Education Minister is also something that's of a concern. First, when he came out and said that funds will be stopped unless NEP is implemented in the state, and now this. Why are you shortchanging the state government for taking a stance is what the DMK and other Dravidian parties like the AIADMK, Vijay's TVK are all asking. Is that not a fair question to ask?
It's a pure politics that they are indulging in. We are talking about 20 different headings under which the funds are allocated by the central government. If you look at, if you go through the historic factors, the funds allotted by the Congress, which saw the expenses towards education is expenses, not investment, used to pay less than 3% of the budgetary allocation, whereas after BJP came to power, it is 4.6%. The NEP 2020 says it shall be up to 6%. We are inching closer to that over a period of time in the last 10-11 years. We have improved upon it from less than 3% to 4.6%. All these factors will have to be seen while looking at the national education policy, which is aimed at the critical thinking, communication skills, skill development, digital education. There are so many things under which the government is funding. One heading under which the government refused to give fund because the incumbent government, that is the DMK government, had indeed agreed in writing to the central government that this is the thing that we agree to work with you, and then they refused to implement it. Hence,
so what explains that U-turn? And Pulara, I'll come to you, but Lakshmi Ramachandran is also patiently waiting. So let me ask you this, ma'am: is the Congress on board with the NEP or no?
Good evening. See, first thing is denying a state funds for school education, that's 2,000 crores, which will affect 4 million students, is unprecedented. It has never happened. It's anti-people. In fact, that move is more anti-national than anything else. See, if two-language policy is what Tamil Nadu has been following for many decades, and we have been showing good results, in school education. Our GER is high. All other educational outcomes are very good. Then how can central government deny us funds just on the basis of this one policy? Is that right? Is it not something that is concerning the future of our children? And the kind of, as Sir was mentioning, they are not willing to listen to the arguments being put forth by the state government. And here in Tamil Nadu, all parties except BJP Tamil Nadu are against three-language policy. And there is strong reasoning given for this. There are many states that are claiming that they have been following three-language policy. Tell me what is the third language that was taught in Gujarat or Maharashtra or Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. Maybe, they are saying it in paper, but what is the third language? What is it that these children are learning and they have accomplished some level of proficiency in all these years? So, the two-language policy has sound pedagogical and practical.
Sure, but there is evolution, and we've seen our policies change. The same is going on with education policy as well. If 8 out of 10 states, for example, have implemented something, there must be something that's right as far as that policy goes. And if the major objection is that the third language is a way of imposing Hindi, where does the NEP document say Hindi is mandatory?
No. Two things. Three
Here
language
I would like to make a small request.
Just a second, let
for
her finish.
many decades. Three language policy has been the government's policy for many decades, not just the BJP governments. The other states claim to have implemented the three language policy, but what is the third language? Nobody has ever told us what is the third language that Bihar or Uttar Pradesh or Maharashtra or Gujarat have.
So can we then know, can we have this data? Ms. Ramachandran, can we have then this data from the 3 Congress rule states that have NEP at the moment as we speak? Karnataka, Himachal and Telangana.
You're asking me?
Yes.
You have to ask the respective state governments what is the third language that the governments have implemented.
But they've implemented it and they've not raised these questions.
It is the authority of the state government to decide which will be the third language, not the center. If it is clearly barging and raising concerns about preserving regional linguistic identities, you are totally barging the region. I mean, Tamil Nadu takes care of the burden of North Indian students. South India takes care of the burden of North Indian students. Where the stats goes there, and then the question arises in the clear demarcation: what would be the preserving regional linguistic identity? Who is going to do that? If the state chief minister, if the state heads are not aligning with it, this has been previous concern as well. And what a mock, how pity it is that an education minister is taking some serious tabooic language, below the belt unparliamentary language. Probably he should consider moral science first as his academia, rather than in parliament he's taking some very strong turn. So apprehensions can go one on one. If I agree on something at 2, I may disagree at 5. This is hard politics. Diplomacy and delicate and delegation is very much needed. How come he's quoting closed door meetings in front of public, in front of parliament? This is really, I mean, more than anything, the language used in parliament is why in the first iteration he got provoked. Was he not prepared enough?
Was he not prepared enough? Sagar Srivastav, the language in which the education minister has been speaking, yes, you can take objections to those, but Sagar Srivastav, please, let me ask you this.
Your education minister get instigated in first 30 seconds. Are you okay with it?
It's not for me to answer.
He's the one who chairs the drafting committee.
Sure, but the objection, the provocation, Sagar Srivastav, if you can just let me ask my question, please.
Sure.
The objection of Tamil Nadu against implementing NEP is because of the 3-language formula, yes? Because they say this is a backdoor attempt of getting Hindi in.
Exactly.
Where is the proof of that?
Where is the proof of that? I mean, just for an example, I put someone who is not familiar with your culture, with your customs in your house. How far are you going to go align with it? Just think about it. It's the country of
negotiations. But nobody is asking you to learn Hindi.
No. If you're giving... No. First of all, it can... Will you be allowing the vice versa thing to happen? No. The preference...
What do you mean by that? The vice versa is happening in every other state. The state decides what subjects can be used as a third language. And like I said, if 8 out of 10 states have implemented it, there must be something that's right with it.
Preserving regional linguistic identity and culture heritage. Madam, with all due respect, the most spoken language and the national language is 2 different words. The most spoken language is Hindi, and the national language is we don't have any national language.
Correct.
So on that, I want to quote a fact that we don't have a national language, and it is to empower the state bodies. The center has many better jobs to do rather than intervening in these matters.
But the center is not intervening. The NEP gives the state the rights to decide what language can be used for the third language.
NEP promotion of public-private partnership and foreign universities could lead to commercialization of education. Critics worry that this may widen the gap between well-funded institution and marginalized community. Are we prepared to create an academia of India A to India B to India C?
Why should we not aim to better infrastructure? To ensure that A, B and C do not get categorized.
Who's going to be the beneficiary of the better infrastructure? Are
the students of the
School of Economics, Columbia,
the students of the state
coming to India? They don't gonna be the cash cows? Are the Gurgaon and the Koramangalam and the Bangalore MNCs they don't take the profits. It's all the game. It's all the game.
It's about the students' future, where they get placed and which MNC makes
then-
money
then
is a
what is
fallout
your
of what happens.
What is the definition
So
of the
are you saying,
student?
should we not prepare
Then-
our students at all to face the world?
Well, then what is the definition of the future? No, all I'm saying is the ideological biases. Opponent also argues that the emphasis on Vedic studies and yoga signals a move towards saffronization of the curriculum. They contend that this could distort education content and compromise balanced secular learning. This is saffronization. I mean, policy, the best school of the world is Harvard Kennedy Public Policy. And it clearly tells that tweaking on policies may result on certain gains, but on a larger impact, it can have certain demerits. Can anyone speak about the demerits? If Tamil Nadu is doing fairly fine, not fairly fine, one of the apex level when it comes to education, there are institutions which are taking burdens of North Indian states like Bihar, UP, and all the Northeast, and from Jammu and Kashmir to Haryana, to Uttar Pradesh, to Rajasthan. Why we are, intervening in some way that is not aligning with the state thing? You win on Tamil Nadu and you take on the accordance just like you did in Delhi. Now, the third thing is, critics says the center use of funding as leverage forces NEP reforms undermining state control over education. This approach is seen as an infringement on federal principle and local autonomy.
Sure. So, Kalyan Raman,
yes.
the problem is that the central government is trying to have way too much influence. That is one. B, that the education minister is using blackmailing tactics, is using unparliamentary language, and that's not the way to go forward.
Thank you so much, Poonam, for stating on the national media.
Sure. Shada Srivastav, you had your time. Let him answer, please.
First of all, let's understand. Sagar speaks about Harvard and all, but let me go back to Swami Vivekananda, who says we want education by which character is built, strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own leg. End of all, education must be man-making. He also went on to say, education is the manifestation of perfection which is already in man. Here, we are looking at a holistic education which will give a strength to the nation in every individual school students. We are not just limiting ourselves to the infrastructure building, but also expanding it to the growth of character, knowledge, the ability for an individual to lead his own self, in the sense it shall be a wholesome man-making education. We also had another person saying that we want a class of people Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, opinion, moral and intellect, that is Macaulay. The Congress implemented what Macaulay wanted. It continued until their last ministry, that is 2014. And it has to be changed to suit the Indian purpose. It has to be made for India to grow beyond the limitations of just English education, for which whether we need Vedic education or not, whether you call it as saffron or saffron is the color of this nation. Can anyone deny that? Just because some English speaking people like Sagar had come to play some role in the field of education, it does not mean that there cannot be Vedic education or saffronization.
That's not the secular way of education, Mr. Kalyan Raman. That's the allegation. And is that allegation not true?
Where Vedic education becomes saffronization or anything else, it is Indianization is saffronization. What is the problem with it?
So that is the problem as far as
the saffron education itself is secular
aspect of the country is
concerned. If you have to go through it, the saffron education itself is secular. That's why Rigveda says, let noble thoughts come to us from every side. We are not an Abrahamic religion which says that one book, one God, one prophet. We believe in everything, including Allah and Jesus.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Kalyan Raman. Should the government, the central government,
understand the perception of India.
There
is enough room for Jesus and Allah in Hinduism. That is what Mahatma Gandhi said.
Take a more softer stance, perhaps, to persuade Tamil Nadu to come on board.
What is softer, harder? I don't understand.
Because the issue is also with the kind of language, the kind of words or the withholding of funds is concerned. That's the problem that the state government also has with.
If the body language of one person, that is the Honorable Education Minister, has any problem, that's a different question altogether.
But that seems to be holding this.
How does it come in the way of policy? Who are you to
Body
object to it?
language.
Just because there is a body language, just have an objection
Yes,
to it.
it is the main
There can be a
thing.
deliberation.
Okay, so Pullarao-
I saw Pullarao saying that with due respect
Okay,
to
so
him.
okay, I'm running short of time, but Pullarao, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Body language is everything.
Okay,
Body
so
language is
if
everything.
the
No,
if the
body
center
language
was to
is not policy,
Mr.
please.
Mr. Raman, just a
Pullarao.
second, and Pullarao, please
Body
let me
language
ask
is
you
not
the question I
policy.
want to ask you.
Where are we?
Pullarao, as far as the central government is concerned, if they were to take a more persuasive stance that the DMK wants, like you've been also saying, is the state government then willing to negotiate? Because everybody has to take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, perhaps. Not if one sticks to their stand, why shouldn't the other?
Diplomacy and negotiation have endless options. It's endless. You have to start it. You have to start it. My friend Kalyan Raman says the body language is everything.
No,
You start
sorry, I
off.
disagree,
You
sir.
pers-
Policy
you
cannot be
persuade
body
people.
language.
No, what is that?
Policy
Attitude
cannot
of
be
the
body
gentleman?
language. You know it.
My
You are
way
a
or
much
the
learned
highway?
person than me.
An education
But
minister is a
Pullarao, it
union
seems
minister.
like it's my way or the highway for the state government as well. Which is why I asked
No,
that if
no.
there was a more persuasive stance, would the state government then come to the
government-
talking table
the
and
state
try
government
and
has to-
redraw
By
what
the
they've
way,
been saying?
There's one small snippet I just want to draw your attention to. Just now it has come out. Tamil Nadu is leading in all indicators. 3.5 lakhs is their annual income
Sure.
for Tamilian.
And
And
no
the
one's
great
denying
Maharashtra
that.
state is only 2.80. They're doing okay.
Sure,
Think
no
they
one's
have some-
denying
they're
that.
doing something right. They're doing something right. Persuade them. That's the job of the government.
Sure.
Did Manmohan Singh talk like that? P.V. Narasimha Rao talk like that? They did enormous things.
Sure.
Enormous things. P.V. Narasimha Rao was
Unfortunately, I'm
education
completely
minister.
out of time and I have to leave it there. But this controversy clearly exploding by the day. And as we see the second half of the parliament, of the budget session begin, we're only going to see it escalate further, both inside and outside the parliament. I thank all our guests for joining us here on this edition of Plain Speak. It is time for a quick break. But on the other side, we'll get you details of what seems to be troubling Air India. This time it was clogged toilets on board a 10-hour flight and there was massive outrage over that. Air India, of course, coming out and clarifying. We'll get you details on the other side.